Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay, and I'm here with Ashley Nicole Moss and Erica Ayala. And we're here, like we are every week, to talk to you not only about the WNBA, but women's sports overall. We have a lot to get into, you guys, a lot. There's some things to talk about for sure this week. But before we get into that, you have to lock in with us. There's so many ways that you can do so. We're on all the social channels. We're on YouTube. Definitely tap in and subscribe on that. We're really close to 100K on YouTube. So be that person to be 100K. So make sure that you lock in so that you're going to get all this information right to you every single week. And we're going to open this up with two things that Nike did this week that are historic on many levels because it's a lot of money involved, and also it's with the school that we know and love. So let's start off with what happened with South Carolina athletics. So they were with Under Armour, and now they're going into a huge Nike contract. It's a 10-year partnership worth $70 million, okay? $70 million, like, can I hold some, period. But there's $5 million in cash that's involved, $2.5 million supplemental product allowance, and 15% of net sales from Nike for Gamecocks items. So definitely an amazing deal on all levels. But something that I specifically wanted to talk about that happened is there's an A'ja Wilson integration. You see her right here, where she's listed as an iconic USC athlete ambassador. And A'ja's signature sneakers will be provided for the women's basketball team to wear on the court. The team will explore A'ja Wilson travel gear as well. And Nike is going to have USC related marketing with A'ja. There's literally a fine if they don't have her involved or execute what they said they would do with A'ja. So, I mean, looking at this is something that is really unprecedented on a lot of levels. We haven't seen, especially in women's sports, an integration with a former player into the college space like this. When you look at this and you see, everything that's happening, how kind of iconic is this that A'ja is involved in this deal in this way with Nike? We'll start with you, Erica.
I mean, I think it's huge. I love to see people connecting with their alma mater. I'm very engaged with my alma mater, go Elon, go Phoenix. And to see how much South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, and the state has meant and does mean to A'ja Wilson, and the fact that now she's finding ways in her professional career to link up, bring things back. Yes, it's a way to promote and manage her brand. However, I'm getting the sense that a part of A'ja Wilson's brand is to give back to South Carolina. And I think that's really dope. I think it's going to be fantastic to see the current athletes have that connection directly to A'ja Wilson through this deal. And again, I get every sense that she, her family, and all that is her overall brand will be involved in meaningful and significant ways.
Yeah, I mean, everything Erica said, and I would just add, hopefully this kind of starts a domino effect of other very notable and impactful alum getting involved with their schools through deals like this. Obviously not everyone is signed to Nike, but there are other sporting brands out there that have the means and the capabilities to do this. You think of, the big three of Adidas, Puma's very much getting in the mix of things. Obviously, we mentioned Under Armour, Reebok as well. So it would be cool to see, prominent figures in the WNBA of current and of past being able to give back to the schools where they really started to make a name for themselves as superstars in the world of basketball. And hopefully, other brands are kind of taking notice and looking at who they have currently on their roster, who they want to bring on their roster, and how they can implement a similar type of scenario with their alma mater and really allow the next generation of women's basketball players to see someone that comes from the program they're currently playing in and, see them at a high level and have somebody very tangible to aspire to be like in some way, shape, or form.
Well, transitioning into somebody who definitely has inspired a lot of people and people want to be like in some way would be Caitlin Clark. She is a pillar in the WNBA, you know, in just her short time. And the Nike release that they had with her was her logo, the CC logo. It was released, and people had, you know, a lot to say on social. Some people liked it, some people didn't. But specifically with the release of the logo, we're talking about the signature shoe as well. You know, we don't need to hash out if the logo is good or not, but what we can hash out is what the significance of another signature shoe in the W means, not only for the W, but what is the impact of having another signature shoe for a woman, for women's sports overall?
I mean, I think, well, for starters, the logo definitely was hard for me to figure out at first, but now looking at it on this shirt, I can see it a little bit more clearly. I get it. It's two C's. At first, I was like, I don't know what this is supposed to be, but
You
um,
see, yes.
yeah, now I see it though. It's a little clearer for me here. It's like one of those ink blot tests, you know, where it's like, what do you see in this image here? Um, I think it's huge. I think we all kind of anticipated once Caitlin got into the league and how big of a splash she made in the league and in the way that she did it in so many different pillars of the league when you talk about, you know, viewership and increased interest in the league, which has started this just massive trajectory of other players now getting that same type of attention and the league getting that same type of attention and the expansions X, Y, and Z. We knew it was a matter of time that this was going to happen. And yes, it probably happened a lot sooner for her than it did for some of her peers. But I think that just happens when you are someone of her caliber, right? I think this is huge. I think that whether or not you know, obviously there are intricacies of Caitlin Clark and her fan base and all the things that surround her. There's good, there's bad. That happens with any type of megastar. But I think one thing we can all agree on this panel is that Caitlin has really been at the forefront of driving this newfound interest and bringing a new um, attention to the WNBA. And for that, that has been massive. That has been beneficial in so many different ways, shape, or form. So when you talk about another signature shoe, especially this shoe going to the player who had a big hand in kind of where we are right now, at least in the immediate of what the WNBA looks like, I think this is going to be huge. I'm already thinking about, you know, the promo rollout, the different events that are going to unfold, how she much, like we were talking about, we hope in the domino effects of other athletes can get involved with her alma mater. We know how much Iowa supports and loves Caitlin Clark, how much the state just kind of backs her and how much of a following she has. This is going to show, I think, that investing in women's sports is beneficial, but also how impactful it can be in such a short amount of time if you can get behind the right player. And I put that in air quotes because I think that all players have something to deliver when you talk about the expansion of the WNBA, but obviously there are tiers to that. And I think that Caitlin Clark is in a tier where that impact, I think, is going to be seen immediately. And this signature shoe just kind of adds to what we've already seen her accomplish.
Yeah, she talks about this being a dream come true, and why wouldn't it be? You know, you talk about maybe she's gotten a shoe a little bit earlier than some of her contemporaries who've come in generations before. It wasn't too long ago that, you know, I was writing stories across women's sports media, wondering when we would get another signature shoe. And we've had different signature shoes that didn't have the launch and the lead up that we've seen for Sabrina, Asia, and now, of course, Caitlin Clark, among others, Brianna Stewart for Puma. We see what Angel Reese is now doing with Reebok. As Ashley mentioned, there's other brands getting in the game, but it wasn't long ago that this was a barren field, and so it felt. You know, we had maybe different PEs, player exclusives, and, you know, things of that nature that women basketball players would be associated with. But now we're seeing more and more true signature shoes, and we're getting them, you know, year after year. We're already up to, I think, the Sabrina threes. I don't even know, can't keep up with them rolling out. You know what I'm saying? And I think this is beautiful. And Caitlin Clark said it. She said to me, this is more than just a logo. Again, it's a dream come true. People talk about leaving their mark, and she feels that this is a way that she can do that. So I'm excited to see. Oh, go ahead.
No, and I also think, Erica, in that same vein, I think it's important, when we talk about the impact signature shoes have had on the NBA. Obviously, that's the sport I've covered my entire career. We know what Jordan brand did, right? We know what the ones did and how it just started this trajectory. And you talk about some of the shoes since then, the LeBrons and the KDs and the Tatums, and how you see these AAU teams and these youth teams wearing these shoes. And I think it's really important to have shoes for women, young women who are in the world of basketball, designed by women and worn by some of their favorite athletes. That's not to say, obviously, I'm somebody who loves Jordans. I have far too many of them. And that's not to say that women can't wear Jordans, but it's a different level of connection when you're wearing a signature shoe by your favorite female basketball player. It just feels different, especially when you are a young girl in the world of basketball and you're wearing that shoe and you're aspiring to be a professional basketball player. It feels different. It looks different. It gives a different level of confidence. We talk about the importance of having jerseys and sportswear that are for women by women, and the signature shoe is very much in that conversation. It just gives young girls the confidence to continue to strive in the world of sports that I feel like you can't necessarily get if you're wearing a shoe that is really, designed and in mind for men. And I just think that this adds a different layer to that. So I'm really excited for the moment that we are in right now. Um,
Yeah,
Look,
I'm excited
stick
too.
around though. Stick around, everybody, because we're going to enter the 2 minute drill, and we are talking Venus Williams at the US Open and who our picks are for defensive and sixth player of the year. You don't want to miss it. Well, welcome back, everyone, to We Need to Talk Now. I'm Ashley Nicole Moss, joined by Erica Ayala and Alicia Jay, and it's time to bring back our 2 minute drill. Now, a quick synopsis of how this is going to work. Each of my friends here have 2 minutes to discuss a topic. There will be a timed clock. So, 2 minutes and 2 minutes only. We're going to start with Alicia, and can I get the 2 minute clock on the board, please? Your defensive player of the year, the floor is yours.
First of all, this is very unfair to ask because we have so many players. I mean, all of the awards right now are so incredibly just tight, right? You have so many people who are just making history left and right, and you could say this defensively. I mean, look, you have Nafisa Collier. Yes, she just came back from injury. She came back, gave us a 30 piece, and she also was just fantastic on both ends of the court, including defensively. Her numbers are just as good as last year, if not better this year. So you have her in the chat, right? Then you have Alyssa Thomas, who people are not talking enough about. She has always dominated on defense, and she continues to dominate. And she's really carrying that Phoenix team in a lot of ways, right? She's leading them to second in a defensive rating. Then you have Asia Wilson. She is giving us MVP again this year, and she's also giving us Defensive Player of the Year as well. You look at that team that she leads the league in so many different things, but also defensively, they are shutting people down as they continue to rise. I think they're at number 2 now, and they were very low before. So you look at what she's doing, right? And then listen, Gabby Williams. Gabby Williams leads the league in steals by a gap of 32, which is the largest in WNBA history, and is the only player this season with 100 plus deflective passes. But as we all know, it really matters team-wise, right? They factor in what's happening with the team, and the Storm are not doing great. So if I'm looking at this in total and looking at this as what the team is doing right now, Asia Wilson has Defensive Player of the Year on lock. I mean, the team is doing well. She's firing on all cylinders, and she deserves the award.
Nice, right on time, Alicia Jay. Very well done.
I tried.
Yes, clap it up. All right, Erica, 2 minutes on the clock. Let's see if you can do as well as our girl Alicia did with your pick for sixth player of the year.
Man, listen, sixth player of the year is always difficult just in general. That and most improved player, I feel like, are very hard to differentiate from just amazing performances. That being said, I got three names for you to consider. One is an honorable mention, and it goes back to Seattle, where they had the number 2 pick, Dominique Malunga. Now, she is crushing it when it comes to points in the paint, especially for reserve players. She has 192 and counting, leads all reserves in points in the paint. Only 5 reserves in WNBA history have scored more points in the paint than Malunga, and 4 of those 5 went on to be sixth player of the year. However, she's not my pick. That is because you have Naz Hillman and Jessica Shepard absolutely crushing it for their respective teams. We know Minnesota's been at the top of the table all season long. And in 10 starts, 23 as a reserve, she actually has fewer games played than Hillman because she was away for a little bit, averaging 8 points, 7.2 rebounds, 2.7 assists. She leads Minnesota in field goal percentage at 63.7. Yes, that's more than Nafisa Collier. Or offensive rebounds, and she's second behind Collier in defensive rebounds and rebounds overall. But Hillman, 11 starts, 27 as a reserve, 8.3 points per game, 9.3 rebounds, and 2.2 assists. When she scores in double figures, Atlanta is 11-4, and the team is undefeated 4-0 when she has 10 or more rebounds. Both of these players are absolutely crushing it for teams that are at the top of the table, and Minnesota in particular. I'm not a person who's like, this award has to go to whomever is on the best team. I think it's more about impact, but I think it's going to be close. I'm not ready to call it yet. I do think Hillman, though, has the edge.
Erica Ayala with seconds to spare. We are in a battle here, folks. This 2-minute drill's getting feisty. All right. The floor once again is yours, Alicia, but I'm going to switch it up on you. All right. Is this it for Venus Williams at the US Open or just all together? The floor is yours. 2 minutes on the clock. Go.
Listen, this one is simple, and I don't think I need 2 minutes for it. So maybe I'll get some points for being under. Okay. But no, it's not over for Venus. Shortly after her loss to Mukova, she was awarded a wild card entry into the women's doubles draw with Leylah Fernandez. So she accepted. So we're going to see some more from Venus if they continue with this doubles, right? So no, it's not over. It's very simple in that fact. But what I will say is that I personally was there at the US Open for her match against Mukova. And I just want to say it was my first time at the US Open. Not only are the facilities just fantastic, okay, but just being there was electric and being a part of history. You know, she's 45 playing in the US Open. She also said that if there were more tournaments in the US that she'd be open to those as well. But I think she just doesn't want to travel. So it's not a matter of her hanging things up or not being able to play. She can definitely do that. And we've seen that. And she will be doing that in doubles. But she just wanted to make sure that she, in her career, competed while she felt good. She talked about being free because she was playing healthy, and it was honestly my honor to watch her do that. It was historic. It was amazing to see her play in person. It was something that I had never have done. And listen, if you have not been to a US Open match, get out there if you can, because it's something that as a person who's been working in sports, I had never witnessed. And to be able to do that with Venus made it that much better. But is it the end of Venus? Absolutely not. We're going to see her play a little bit longer, and we're going to see her in the world of tennis for years to come. And also, she needs that insurance, okay? So she's going to be playing.
I have to say, it is so much fun for me to hear about someone's first experience at the US Open. Being a New York kid, that's such a huge part of my upbringing. You know, I've taken it for granted. US Open's very much part of some of my fondest memories. Queens, my dad's from Queens. Shout out to Queen. I grew up going there, and it just, if I could do one thing, one sporting event over for the first time, it would be the US Open. So it makes me so excited when I hear people experiencing it for the first time, because it is something very near and dear to my heart as a New York girl. So I'm glad you got your first US Open experience, and I hope it will not be your last. And my fellow New York girl, I'm giving you the last point here. This is not going to be a tennis point, though, so don't get too excited, all right? I need you to make your case for Alyssa Thomas as MVP. 2 minutes on the clock. Go.
Well, first of all, I just got to say, y'all got to invite me because your girl ain't never been to the U.S. Open,
Oh my
which is kind of
God.
wild. I'm telling you, like, we got to talk about it. All right, but we going to talk about AT first. We going to talk about AT first. We could talk about tennis. Y'all going to hook me up. We're going to talk about AT first. Averaging 15.9 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, a 9.3 assists per game. That puts her in the company of LeBron James, Magic Johnson, and Nicole Jokic as the only NBA or WNBA players to average 15, 9, and 8, plus have at least a steal and shooting over 50% on the floor. She has more triple doubles in August than any player has had in their career with 7. There have only been 55 triple doubles in WNBA history. Alyssa Thomas has 22. Okay. And you can say, all right, Erica, well, she didn't get all 22 this year. You're right. But she's still setting a single season record for triple doubles. She just got an assist record for Phoenix in her first year. Alyssa Thomas, the engine that could, she always gets it done. Absolutely. And I think that when we're talking about MVP, I emphasize the V for valuable. Alyssa Thomas is always one of, if not the most valuable player for her team, and she's putting up historic numbers. That's why she absolutely 100% should be in this conversation for most valuable player. It's not best player. And that's now this is where we get a little funky, right? Because it's not best player. It's not the whoever is the best player in the league, or at least that's not what the award is named after. And I think once again, A'ja Wilson, they have to be in this conversation. And I think it comes down to, what do you define MVP as? I don't know. Your girl a little literal. So I'm going V for valuable. Alyssa Thomas is hella valuable for the Phoenix Mercury.
Well done, ladies. Well done. 2-minute drill. Exceptional points on both sides. Look, I want to remind everybody to make sure they are following us on all of our social media platforms, and also make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Turn those notifications all the way up, because outside of shows like this, we have special edition shows, we have full-length interviews, and a lot of other cool stuff that you will not want to miss, but you will miss it if you're not locked in with us. And speaking of locked in, while you're doing that, make sure you are also staying put, because when we get back, it is time for our guarantee of the week, and you will not want to miss that.
Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay, here with Ashley Nicole Moss and Erica Ayala. And you know what? It's time for one of our favorite things, and that is the Guarantee of the Week, presented by AT&T. And this week, we are guaranteeing that everyone is watching women's sports. And it's just true. There's been so many record-breaking moments that have happened in so many different ways in women's sports. But we could not talk about everyone watching women's sports without paying homage to a woman who certainly had many record-breaking moments. We were just talking about the US Open, and we have to talk about Althea Gibson. Gibson broke barriers and paved the way for women's sports on so many different levels. But this year specifically marks 75 years since she broke the color barrier in what is now the US Open. So at the time it wasn't, but now it is known as the US Open. It's only one of her many, many accomplishments. She has changed sports, not just women's sports, but sports forever. And, you know, when you look at her impact and what she has done and what is happening in women's sports right now, you know, how has she literally changed the game into what we're seeing right now? Erica, we'll start with you.
Well, I mean, you have to think about, this is 1950 that we're talking about. Althea Gibson had to get a letter from a white player to compete in what we now know as the US Open, to even go on and break that color barrier. I mean, there's so many historical things that we could talk to that reflect how often, especially Black women, have had to rely on the good faith of allies. And thankfully, there have been allies, that have been supported, or people working in allyship. But Althea Gibson won 11 Grand Slam titles that spanned her career, including women's doubles and mixed doubles. She again broke that color barrier, and she was doing so when people did not want her there. The distractions of being on lower courts, being introduced to photographers at different stages of the tournament when that wasn't the custom at the time. And nevertheless, she persisted. And I think it's beautiful that we're talking about Venus, and that we're talking about everyone watching women's sports and how that's our guarantee. Because without women like Althea Gibson, there was a picture that we had. Of course, she was with the iconic Jackie Robinson. Without those types of players, Willie O'Ree in men's ice hockey, at least, got to give a shout out to Blake Bolden on the women's hockey side. Without these athletes, the sports that we know and love would not truly be open to all. And we're just talking about race right now. There's all kinds of other people who have broken the barrier. And that's the thing that I think I love most about women's sports. I've been covering women's sports for over 10 years now. And there is overwhelmingly, especially in the tight-knit community of fans and players, there is an inclusiveness that just doesn't necessarily permeate at other levels of sport, primarily men's sports, that is built into the community on the women's side. And that's why, as we continue to see the growth, fans and even the athletes themselves, they really work hard to protect those things. And so we talked about Asia Wilson and her shoe and all kinds of other things. I mean, Dawn Staley is another great example of someone continually just making space and making the lane wider and not more narrow as women's sports continues to rise.
Yeah, I mean, Alicia, we've had the conversation so much on this podcast about, what Venus and Serena meant for us, growing up watching tennis. And it was a sport that, because I was so invested in them, I became invested in the sport. And, we talk about constantly now for young girls having Coco and Naomi and some of the other young Black tennis players that were their path was paved by Venus and Serena. The path of Venus and Serena were paved by the people that came before them. And I think that it's just so important to continue breaking down barriers and not allowing the person that came before you, yes, maybe the first, but not the last. And I think that that is something that we always have to look back and celebrate. I think that a lot of the times, and rightfully so, because we as women, especially Black women, have dealt with a lot of barriers and a lot of no's and not as many yeses, and a lot of things that kind of have hindered our development in various areas, but specifically in the sports world, that we're constantly in search of more, and we're constantly in search of, getting what's ours and pushing back against narratives and status quos, if you will, that sometimes I think that we forget to look back and see just how far we've come. Not to be content, but just to look back and see how far we've come. And I think in moments like this, where we're having these conversations, you see just how much work has gone into this very moment in time. And when you look at it from that landscape, yes, it makes you still want more. It makes you want to strive for more, but it also makes you proud to be part of where we are currently. And, we had this conversation when we talked about rather being on the side of things of women in media. And I remember when I was in my mid 20s, early 20s, the amount of brown and Black girls in this industry were very far and in between. And that was only 6, 7 years ago. And to now have an entire new generation of young journalists who, we were just at NABJ, and I don't know about you, but the amount of women that came up to me while we were at that conference and saying that they either watch this pod or they watch me, and thank you so much, like, because of you I know I can do this. That's crazy to think that in such a short amount of time it's a little bit easier for them than it was for us going through this. And to have a small part of that is very impactful to me, and it's something that I hold very near and dear to my heart. So conversations like this just kind of remind us how far we've come and how far we still have to go. But it is a moment, I think, to be proud and to celebrate, because 75 years ago was not that long ago. So a lot has happened since then.
Definitely so many things to celebrate. Gibson paved the way for so many of us and just paved the way for women's sports in general, as we've been talking about. And people are watching it at such a high rate. Just a couple of things to note when we're talking about everybody watching women's sports. There was a couple of things, a couple of sports events on CBS, rather, that set precedent when it comes to attendance recently. So a lot of people were watching. 40,091 fans at Oracle Park for an NWSL game. And then for rugby, for the World Cup of Rugby, a whole nother attendance record was broken with 42,723 turning out to watch England beat USA. Those are just two examples of what is happening in women's sports right now. Everyone is certainly watching women's sports, and they're doing so because of what people have done, like Gibson, to get us to this spot of these record attendance, breaking historic things that are happening. And I couldn't, end this without mentioning how many people are watching, what is happening in the world of women's sports now. And we just can't wait to see it just like blossom and bloom in so many different ways. So we're definitely going to be watching, as everybody else is, women's sports. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about the world of women's sports. So come right back to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.
Welcome back, everybody, to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. And look, the Connecticut Sun and all the drama surrounding this potential sale has not slowed down. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis so we can get to the opinions on this. But it is more than likely the Connecticut Sun are to present offers to the WNBA. Now, right now, the Mohegan Tribe likely has 4 proposals to send to the league. According to ESPN, the tribe is reportedly frustrated with the WNBA stance and, quote, feels that the league wants a single solution to relocate the team to a market and a value of the WNBA's choosing. So usually, for people who are unfamiliar, it's usually up to the owners of the franchise to have final say in, ultimately, of course, with the approval of the league, but ultimately it is their sale. They're the ones who initially bought the team, and they're the ones who initially have a final say so on who they decide to sell to. Of course, once that person goes to the correct channels and parameters to get the approval of the league. But the tribe is basically saying that the WNBA wants to have more of a say-so in basically where the Connecticut Sun go, which ultimately you can understand because that would benefit the league in X amount of factors. So I want to start with you, Erica, because you really were diving into the intricacies of this during our production call. This is a mess. This is very unprecedented in the way that it's kind of been handled and the way that it has just gone through channels, not gone through channels. What do you make of this? Where are we right now? And what can we expect?
Sure. So what we know right now is that the last few teams to get expansion bids, which would include Cleveland, Portland, and Detroit, those 3 teams were reportedly bought in at the expansion at an expansion fee of $250 million. Now, the sale that we are seeing that Connecticut wants to go through is for $350 million plus money set aside to build facilities. That, however, the WNBA is saying is not going to be approved because it did not go through the proper channels. There's also reporting and conversations that the WNBA, they didn't like that the Mohegan Tribe, they poo-pooed or they said no to a relocation that would have taken them to Cleveland, then that would have opened the WNBA up to go to another market. Basically, like you said, it's a mess. I think the conversation that we're trying to figure out is it appropriate for the WNBA, even if not, I should say, assuming all channels are followed through, because the WNBA is saying that the proposal process didn't go through properly. Is this something that the WNBA should have autonomy over, an independent owner being able to sell to the highest bidder? I think that's really the question and the crux here right now.
I think for me, the thing that I'm most concerned about is just expansion overall. If we're having this many issues with this sale, and then we are hearing things out of Portland, unfortunately, that are happening, what is happening over the governance of all of it? Because expansion is so important. We definitely need it in different ways, but it has to be implemented in the right ways, especially with where we're at in the W and the growth that is happening. You got to capitalize on that. And it doesn't sound like that is happening right now, Ashley. It doesn't.
Absolutely. It does not look good. We are going to keep our eyes and ears open for this one. But look, when we get back, before we wrap this show, we have something that we need to talk about. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now. And we wouldn't be We Need to Talk Now presented by AT&T if we didn't talk about the hot topics that were happening right now. And yesterday at a US Open match between Taylor Townsend and Jelena Ostapenko, there was a little back and forth that happened after Taylor beat Jelena. And I was gonna like run down everything that happened, but I think what Taylor said in her interview right after it happened kind of explains everything. It kind of wraps it up in a bow. So let's take a look.
Competition, people get upset when they lose, and you can't, some people say bad things. She told me I have no class, I have no education, and to see what happens when we get outside the U.S. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I beat her in Canada outside the U.S. I beat her in New York outside the U.S. So let's see what else she has to say.
You were down 5-3, won 9 straight games. What changed for you?
Honestly, I just locked in. I mean, she was playing really well at the beginning, and, you know, when she was playing well, I didn't say anything. And so that just shows class. I mean, sometimes people are playing too good, and you have to just take it. But I turned it up another level, and that's what I'm most proud of today.
Now, she also went on after that, listen, clock it, all of it, okay, period. But she also went on to say later that the thing I'm most proud of is that I let my racket talk. Because ultimately, I'm the one here sitting in front of you guys, moving on to the next round, getting the next check, moving on. And that's what's most important. Now, Ostapenko released an Instagram statement, which is so funny that people are doing that nowadays. It's like an Instagram press release that basically said, it wasn't an apology, okay? Definitely was not that. But she just pointed out that Townsend started her warm up too early and that it was disrespectful. So she kind of doubled down on how she reacted. Definitely didn't apologize, but hearing what Taylor had to say and what she had to say, what do you make of this? Ashley, I'm going to start with you because your face is kind of telling the story. Okay. Both of you. Shoot.
Girl, get on. Like, what? First of all, you're telling me that you held on to any animosity, negativity, emotion, disrespect that you had about warm-ups the entire match and waited until you lost to come step to me about it? Like, if it was a problem, then say it's a problem when it's a problem. That's my thing. Like, don't hold on to whatever you feeling during warm-ups and then wait until you lose a match to come step to me about it, because clearly it wasn't really that offensive to you in the first place because you let hours go by before you said something about it. Like, second of all, here's my thing. Like, wait until we get outside the US. Is that a threat? Like, what you trying to like see where I'm from? Like, that sounds like a threat. And if it's pressure, it's pressure. Let me know what time it is. Like, so my thing is First of all, shout out to Taylor for holding her own. She let the match do the talking. She let her game do the talking. She walked away with the dub. She's packed up. You know, she said she's packed up. She's gone. I'm here. That part. But it's like, girl, don't use warm-ups as a reason to come step to me, and definitely don't throw no threats in Queens, because if it's a problem, it could be a problem. Say that. That's all I'm saying. Like,
I mean, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because I was like, hold on, wait a minute
Right.
now. I know we not tossing out threats. We not tossing out threats. Like, that's crazy to me. That's absolutely wild. Like, on some Diana Taurasi, meet me in the lobby kind of, nah. That's not cute. That's not, it wasn't cute when DT
and
did it. I know, like,
and
you know,
don't
listen.
you remember during the Olympics how all the people who were like trying to pickpocket Americans were getting beat up in the streets? Because we don't play that in America. So if you want to talk about outside the US, you could take that chance if you want to. Like,
but also, like, you already got beat outside the US. Well, wait for what, homie? Like, wait for what? We already got receipts. What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Yeah.
And like, who's rolling up? Like, what we doing? That was wild. Like, it was hella disrespectful. Like you said, like, she held it down, and that's it. Like, this is over. Like, it's not even a thing. Like, you want to say whatever you want to say on social media, baka baka ba. Ain't nobody taking you serious right now, because like you said, you getting over warm-ups. Like, go file a complaint, homie. Like, what are we doing? Like, a warm-up? Like, you were so pressed. You were so pressed on somebody else's warm-up. Like, that's crazy. Like,
to me,
focus on
woman
yourself.
to woman, and be like, yo, like, I don't appreciate you invading my warm-up time. Don't wait hours after. And on top of that, she had an opportunity to kind of like walk back what she maybe said in anger, frustration, whatever the case may be. Like, the fact that you're going to tell another competitor, wait until we're outside the US, like, girl, ain't nobody scared. So like, what's up? Like, that's crazy to not even walk back that part of your statement. If you didn't want to walk back the emotion or whatever, like, to tell somebody, another competitor, you have no education, like, what is that even? Girl, we're playing tennis. Like, what does that even mean? This ain't debate club. Like, what does that matter? And first of all, it's not true. But even if it were true, there's no relevance. We're playing tennis. We're not, playing chess. Like, fall back. It was just 100%. A lot of racial undertones. It was nasty, Alicia. I'm not here for it.
Yeah, I wasn't here for it either. When you're a competitor, and we've all been athletes, we've all like covered athletes for a really long time as well. And yeah, you're gonna have some back and forth, and that should happen. 100%. That should happen in sports. But when you have lost, for you to come for your class and education, that's a different level. That's not just being chippy. That's not just being a competitor. Now you're actually, you coming for me in a different way on different levels. So yeah, that was my main issue with it.
Hey, my girl lucky she ain't do that with prime Compton shorty Serena Williams, because that would have been a different conversation.
Or Venus. Or Venus.
Listen, either or. You don't want to go there with the Compton girls, because if it's a problem, it could be a problem. Like, what? Like, that's crazy. 100%. That is one of the craziest things I feel like I've ever heard. Selling somebody in a tennis match, you have no education. Like, one, not true. Two, again, explain to me the relevance. What does that mean? Bye.
And can't you just like pulling at what is this the phrase, you pulling at straws, you trying to like pull thread? I don't know, you pulling at you reaching
girl, bye.
You reaching.
Yeah,
like,
that energy
it's crazy.
Take that energy to Cancun, because that's where you headed. Get out of here.
Okay.
Wow.
You going fishing. Yeah. But definitely Taylor put that all in a bow when she said, I let my racket do the talking, and that's on period. So we're definitely, we're going to be talking about this. We're going to see what happens with this. People are going to be talking back and forth on social all day continuously, just like we are right now. But this is going to wrap another show. Thank you guys for being here, for watching everything, for us talking about women's sports as we do every week right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. Tap in so you can get all of the updates, and we'll see you next week.